Hey, welcome back to the Board Game Closet. My name's Jimmy.
I'm Tim.
I'm Rod.
And today we're going to take a look at Dead of Winter. This is put out by Plaid Hat Games, plays 2 to 5 people in roughly 1 to 2 hours. In Dead of Winter, you are playing survivors who are trying to survive the winter. And, oh, by the way, there's a zombie apocalypse that has taken place. So, if you can survive the winter and if you can survive the betrayer, then you could win the game. Or maybe you win the game if you're the betrayer.
Either or.
So here we go. Let's take a look and see what you get in the box. Okay, so this is what you get in the box with Dead of Winter. There is a ton of stuff. Rod, tell us what you think about the components.
Okay. So the first thing that you notice is you see the people and their little, these little pop-out characters with their standees, and there's a million of them. So first of all, in the game itself, this is a zombie game, so you have a good amount of humans, I mean a ton actually, and then you have a good amount of zombies, obviously, because they're attacking you. And the artwork on them is good. I mean, it represents each person very well. Very few of them look like each other, which can happen if you have so many characters. And with this one, with the exception of zombies, they don't repeat themselves with the way they look.
Which is cool.
And then it's taking place in the winter time, so all the artwork is going to have snow or something in it. So these location cards will have the pictures of the police station, the hospital, but you'll see the snow in there. And does a very good, adequate job. It represents what you're trying to look at. They use tokens a lot for certain things in the game. The tokens are fine. The cards themselves, there's just a ton of cards in the game. I think they were smart by going with the standees versus miniatures, because with miniatures you kind of lose that individual feel to it. I feel at least that's how I feel. And when it comes down to this game, it's kind of like you're really going with the characters a lot, the way this game plays. So I thought it was a smart idea that they went with these.
Yeah, because I think, obviously, if they would have done miniatures, none of this would have been colored or painted, and so it just wouldn't have had the same character that these little standees add to it, because every single one, it just brings it to life a little bit better for me.
And right, and with them being so many of them, it would have just been washed, would have just washed right through. So all in all, with the board, I mean, the board itself is only this size, but everything around it you can see. It reminds me of Firefly with how much extra stuff there is. But
what would you say about these dice, though?
Well, they are small, but they are good quality dice. They've got the large circles, so you can know if it's a 4 or a 2 for those who can't see.
A nice contrast.
And they give you a ton. Of dice.
So, Tim, do you want to tell us about how hard or easy it is to learn Dead of Winter?
Okay. So this is a Plaid Hat's game. So first of all, you don't have to start with the instruction booklet. You can always go to their website and watch, I think it's Rodney Smith, shows it on this one too. So he can show you how to play through a video. So that's always nice with Plaid Hat games. But the instruction booklet's pretty clear on everything. But it is a complicated game. There is a lot of stuff to it. It will take you a good part of the first game that you play to learn the game. But luckily, they have, on your player cards, they have a little cheat sheet. This is a reference, and you will be following it step by step throughout the entire first game. You'll just keep having to go right back to it, just to remember every little step that there is. But the actual game itself is not that difficult. There's just a lot going on that you have to keep track of.
Yeah. Let's talk about how Dead of Winter plays. Now, like Tim said, there's a lot of rules to this game, and there's a lot of steps to it. And so I'm probably not going to hit every single step or every single rule, but we'll hit the highlights so that you know how a basic turn is going to work in Dead of Winter. So you get a player aid card, a player reference card, and this helps you to know all of the steps, the rounds, the summary of the round and how it's going to work. So the first part is going to be players take their turn, right? And then at the end of the player turn, then the colony phase takes place, or basically life beats you down when you get to that part. And so the first thing that you're going to do is try to prevent all of the bad stuff that could happen when it comes to the colony phase. And so each person at the beginning of the game is going to get a couple survivors to start, which can be a little hard to find at the beginning, but then you get your dude. So on the character card, it just tells you all the details. It tells you their status number, which has to do with some things in the game. It tells you an attack value. So basically, if you have a die, you have to have a die that matches that attack number or higher in order to attack. And then you've got a search number die. And so you have to have a die that matches that search number or higher in order to search. And this varies by the player, right? So some players can search better, some players can attack better, or easier, I guess is the way to look at it. And so you place your guys out there, and then you're going to get a scenario card. And so the scenario card is going to tell you what your main objective is for the game, basically how you're going to win the game, because every single round you're going to check to see if you've completed this objective. If you have, then the game is over. But it tells you how to set up the game, how many zombies to put out, where they're at, victory conditions, all that kind of stuff. And it tells you a story to read in the book. So you'll go through and you'll read the premise behind this certain scenario. What are we doing this time? Why does it make sense to collect zombie bodies and things like that? And so you put out that objective and then you go from there. On your turn, you can do a number of actions, right? So you can do stuff like you can attack the zombie, you can search for stuff, you can move to a location, you can trade stuff, ask for stuff. What else can you do? You can spend food tokens, you can vote to exile somebody, you can clean waste and get that out of there. You can do all these actions, and so you're going to be working together somewhat, because there's a betrayer thing, which I forgot to mention, but I should do that now. Is based off the number of players, you're going to mix in a certain number of cards that are regular cards and then a certain number of betrayal cards. And so then you mix all those cards up, and then you pass them out to so many people. So there could be a betrayer in your mix, but you don't really know in your midst. But you're not really sure, so the whole time you're kind of guessing. And so on each one of those secret objective cards, it tells you how you can win the game. And so the first one, if you're not a betrayal person, is you just have to complete the main objective. And then there's a secondary objective that would tell you if you're going to win or not. So that might be like, I have the most survivors, or different things like that. And it might be your objective that you have to complete at the end of the game. If you do that, then you're like the ultimate best winner, I guess.
Ultimate best winner.
The ultimate best winner of all time. On a turn, like I said, you can do all of those actions. Any of those actions that you think you need to do. Oh, okay, I need to go to the police station and search for something. And on each one of the location cards, they even tell you which items you're most likely to find in that location. And it makes sense thematically. Like if I go to the gas station, I'm probably going to find fuel. If I go to the grocery store, I'm probably going to find food. But because the cards are all mixed up in there, it doesn't mean that you're going to. And so like here at the hospital, you're probably going to find medicine. But if I just drew right off of the top, I found 2 outsiders, 2 outsiders, 2 outsiders, some adrenaline, food.
It's just like the last game.
I have not found, okay, well, I guess adrenaline's medicine. But anyway, so just because it says that it's supposed to be in there and you're more likely to, doesn't mean you're going to. But so let's talk about how the zombies work and all that stuff. So if I move to a location, so I leave the safety of the colony, and I want to go out to the hospital because I've run out of food and items that I need. So I go out to the hospital. Well, what I do is I just simply move my character there. It doesn't cost me a die to do that. I just can do that freely. But then when I get there, now I have to roll for exposure because I've left the safety of the colony, and on the way to the hospital, I could have been exposed. And so they have an exposure die that's pretty simple. Ooh, that's bad. So if I roll the exposure die and I land on a tooth, that means that I was bitten by a zombie, and we'll talk about what that means. But there's also blank sides. There's a frostbite side, so you can get a frostbite token on your guy because it is dead of winter, and so you're risking it by going out. Or you just have a wound token. So I got wounded, but I wasn't bitten. If you get bitten by the zombie, this is terrible news because not only are you going to die instantly, but there's the chance that the zombie threat could now be spread from you to someone else. So you die. Let's say that our Santa Claus dude right here went from the hospital back to the colony. He rolls for exposure and gets bitten. When he's there, he's instantly going to die, and morale is going to drop. And then when morale drops, that you're getting closer to the end of the game because if it drops to 0, you lose the game. But once you're bitten, you die, and then it spreads. So you have the option to say, okay, we're going to kill off somebody else. We're going to kill off the next lowest person, and then our morale drops because we killed them, but then the zombie threat is over. It doesn't spread anymore. So let's just say that you decide not to kill off them because you don't want to drop your morale. So what you have to do is roll again. So you roll the dice again. If you don't get anything, then guess what? You're okay, and the zombie threat has stopped. But if you get a wound or another bite, then it continues. So that person dies, your morale drops, and then you have to make that decision all over again. It's not that bad if you go somewhere and there's nobody else there. That's just the end of it. But if they're at the colony and they get bit, you better kill them off quick because this thing could spread. And so you don't have that many morale points that you can lose through death. So you can also search in those decks like we showed you earlier and look for items that you can use. You're going to be finding things like food items, medicine, fuel. Fuel is a great one because it means you can travel somewhere without having to roll for exposure, and that's a big deal in this game. But that's basically how a turn works, is you're going to be trying to go around and collect things, trying to kill off zombies, do stuff like that. So at the end of the player's turn, then it goes into the colony turn, and this is where things get difficult because you have to pay food for every survivor that's there. So it's 1 food for every 2 survivors. So the more survivors that you start accumulating, the more food you have to get to feed them. If you ever don't have enough food to feed them, then you take a starvation token, and that drops your morale by 1. The next thing that you do is you're going to add a new crisis, because every single round there's a new crisis card that you have to avert. So like this one says that I have to have a certain number of these tool-looking cards for each non-exiled player. So you would put that out onto the table, and now not only do you have to feed everybody this round and survive this round, but you have to meet this brand new scenario that's been given to you. And so you check to see if you did that. If you passed it, okay. If you failed it, you pay the penalty. And there's also a reward if you go above and beyond. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to add zombies. And so based off of the number of survivors, you're going to be adding new zombies outside your colony. And so that's going to start building up there. If you ever have survivors at any of these locations, you add zombies there. If you made noise at these locations, you're going to be rolling to see if zombies show up there. The only other thing that we haven't mentioned, which adds huge flavor to this game, this is called Dead of Winter, a Crossroads game. And they have this huge stack of events that could possibly happen on your turn. And so every time somebody takes a turn, so it's Rod's turn, the person next to him would draw a card, and you would read this top, not out to them, but you would just start to read it. And then if at any point during his turn the scenario is met, the requirements are met, then I would read out this card, and then he would have 2, maybe 3 options at that point. So this one says, if the player makes a search action with a non-exiled survivor. So basically, I can't tell him, Rod, don't search this time, don't search. But if Rod says, you know what, I'm going to search, and I'd say, but first. And then I would read out the card, and then he would have to choose his actions based off of that, what he wants to do. And that can be good and bad sometimes. So,
and those cards get so specific that they actually name off characters doing certain things. Mm-hmm. So it really does add some really flavor to it.
You guys want to talk about the game? What are your thoughts on Dead of Winter?
Yeah, Rod, what are your thoughts on Dead of Winter?
Well, first of all, I don't like resource games. Now, this is a resource game, but there's a lot of things that are done well. For instance, I love that, they have a deck of cards for each location. So that makes it specific. It doesn't make it like the other ones in any way. So that's a really neat feature. This right here with this Crossroads deck adds a lot to the game.
It really does.
It's really, really neat. So, I mean, those are things that I think that are really advantages that make the game good.
What about you, Tim?
I definitely agree that the Crossroads is what makes the game, because otherwise it's just another move your piece around and gather resources. The Crisis adds a little bit to it, but honestly that just adds more for you to do per turn, so that you're not just beefing up your colony every single turn. Because it does add a lot of hectic to it, because it's based on the number of players and not just like set number of resources that you need to get extra.
One thing that I really liked about the game is, like, at the beginning you feel like you're doing great because they start you out with these starter cards that are like food and gas and medicine. And so you feel really good because you're like, oh, we need 4 food here, I'll just pay that out, And then like 2 or 3 rounds in, you're like, we got to go out. We got to get out of the colony. We got to go and find stuff and go get it and add it to it. And so for me, I liked a lot of that stuff where it felt like the whole time. It's kind of like, I don't know, like Pandemic or something, where you feel like you're in control of the game, and then like one round and everything changes. It's very similar to Robinson Crusoe, where you're trying to get all these resources and the game is just beating you down, that kind of thing. So,
and it sticks with the theme really well. There's pretty much nothing out there that pulls you out of the theme. You know, they do a really, really good job with that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because all of the cards offer, if you buy into the theme, all of the cards pretty much tell you, you know, what's going on and why you have to do it. Other than probably the crisis cards, they just say pay up.
And like we said, they get specific to the characters. So your characters have special abilities, and yet they have other things that occur to change things around. So there's some really neat features in the game. Real neat features.
Okay, at the end of our reviews, we like to give a simple one-die rating. Should you buy it, play it, or hate it? Green means go buy this game and add it to your collection. White means maybe you wouldn't buy it, but you definitely play it. And then red means you wouldn't buy it and you wouldn't play it because you hate it. So we'll see what we give it. And go! White, green! 2 whites and a green. Well, it's a good thing I bought it then. And it's a good thing you'll play it with me. Okay, exactly. So tell me why you gave it a white.
The game is very cyclic in its nature, and that you start your turn off by rolling your dice. Wow, that was a really good roll.
Which you never.
But then, you're basically just using these dice to move him, and then searching, moving, searching, moving, searching, kind of thing. And if it didn't have these story cards, like we mentioned earlier, I would absolutely just not play this game. But this does add enough story and theme to the game that it actually is fun. So.
For me, I gave it a green because I've played Zombicide, I've played Night of Winter, or Last Night on Earth.
Yep.
I've played. There's another one that we did that was a zombie game. I can't even remember now. But
Rum and Bones.
Rum and Bones, you know, things like that. For me, this one, like all of those games, are roll and move, search for the item, kill off the hordes of zombies, you know, and which is basically a lot of what this is. But for some reason, I just like this so much better. Like if there was a zombie game that we were going to play, this would be it for me, because I just like the characters that you get, the items, searching, crossroad cards, secret objectives, all the stuff that you got to remember, even though it's a lot. I don't know why. I just like that. I like saying, oh, yeah, we got to do this and don't forget about that. And there's just something about that to me that just makes it more than just, here come some more zombies, let's go kill them, you know?
Right.
So.
For me, it's white, just because of what I said. I'm not a big resource person, but it did have like a lot of saving grace to it with these location cards and the crossroads. And I think them using the characters and getting specific to the characters was really cool. Because I could see after you've played this 20 times, like we used to do as kids with big game, 40, 50 times, you would know every character and his abilities and what he's good for. And the moment you pulled him, you'd be like, oh, yeah, you know right away. Now we're still like, oh, that's what she does, or that's what he does. But
and you almost forget as you play along.
Exactly.
Oh, I can do that, yeah.
But as is, I mean, I think it's a fun game, and I would play it anytime that you pulled it out. It's just not one that I would buy right now, especially since you own it.
There you go. Okay, so that's our review of Dead of Winter. We've got a lot more reviews on our website. BoardGameCloset.com. Hey, in the comments, tell us what you would give this game. Would you give this a red, a white, or a green? We want to hear about what you guys would give this game. So anyways, check us out online, and thanks for watching.
And support your local hobby shop.